How's it going, guys? So I promised you guys in the last video that I'll be diving in a bit deeper into my profit-making strategy with crypto. So I wanted to show you guys the profile of my strategy. So this isn't the full picture. This is just the risk profile of this strategy right after I started it, the day right after. So this is the risk that I've chosen to accept. Now this strategy can be custom tailored to move this risk. Maybe I wanted this red portion to be a bit less. This is just what I've chosen to do. And this is what I'm showing you guys is just the hedging part of it. So I'm using futures and options to hedge this strategy. The actual money maker, I'm not showing in this sheet. So I'm actually making daily profits off of trades, but I'm also having to hedge these trades. And this is the hedge that I've settled on, comparing things like how much it's going to cost me to hedge, because that's going to eat into my profits, and how much risk am I willing to accept, and where do I want that risk to be. So I've chosen to accept downside risk as opposed to upside risk, because at the time it looked like ETH was more likely to go up. It was just a judgment call that I made. Now, I just want to fast forward. Remember this number, guys. Remember this $560 maximum drawdown that I've got, and also look at how high this green lump is, because we're going to compare that to what has happened now 10 days into running the strategy. So let's scroll down and see what happened. So 10 days in, the price of ETH, this red dot right here is the price. The price of ETH used to be all the way up here around 2,500. It's now at 2,200 roughly. And that's because of all the macro stuff that's been happening with the Middle East. And so that's not great for the risk profile that I've chosen. But look at what the maximum drawdown is right now. It's minus 436, whereas it used to be minus 560. So it's about $120 better than it used to be. And that's because of two reasons. So one reason is because I'm using put options to hedge this. And I've modeled these put options in a way that tends to overestimate the risk and to underestimate the reward. So when I was looking at what these put options might do, when I was back here at 2,500, I had a certain model for how quickly these put options will gain value. And I've chosen that model specifically to be more pessimistic, so that it thinks it's going to gain value slower than it actually will do in practice. But as we approach the actual strike price, which for these put options that I bought is 2,000, as we get closer to the 2,000, the actual put options gain value more quickly than anticipated. So we get a bit of bonus money that we weren't counting on. So this risk is actually going to be lower. The further down we go into the red zone, the lower this actual risk is going to be. But the other big thing that's happening, and that's mostly what's responsible for this, is the strategy that I'm using is just constantly shaving off profits from these price movements of the market. It's constantly trading. And so these profits, they get added to the overall risk. So if I end up in the minus 500 region that we had at the beginning, but I've made $600 of profit from just the overall movement of the market, then I'm actually $100 in profit. So what happens to this curve is, as time passes and the market moves, these profits get added to this curve, and the curve kind of gets shifted up. So the portions that were underwater before will end up above water slowly. So this whole thing just ends up, this whole red line here just ends up rising and rising and rising until hopefully the whole thing's above water. And if at any point we end up in a green zone where we're already above water, we can think about taking profits. And if we don't, that's also fine, because we're just continually making profits off of these market moves. So all we have to do is wait. And just again to compare, let's just look at how this graph looks like here. Same shape versus when we started the first day. It's like the same graph shape, just the red zone has climbed up a bit, and so has the green zone. It's now taller. If you go back here, it's the same graph almost, just it's gotten higher. The red zone has gotten, just we filled up this bucket. The red line has risen, and so the whole the whole graph has shifted up, and we're just gonna let this happen for a while and see what we end up with. But I do like this feature of making constant profits, and the price can do whatever it wants to do. We're just making profits, and we'll take profits when we're in a convenient space. And if we're not, we're just gonna keep making profits. And also, just to show you guys that I'm being real about this, you can see this red dot is where the price is currently at. And this is our profit right now, this point on the curve. And it's obviously underwater. So we started with $1,500 on Bybit, and we're now sitting at roughly 1,200, which is what this red zone here says. We're like, the level of this point on the curve is about minus 300. So yeah, it is what it is. We're just gonna have to wait this out. We're gonna keep making daily profits. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.